Welcome to the MSU Horticulture Gardens and our trialing program. I'm Deidre McGrath and I'm the trial garden manager here at the gardens, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how our trials operate and then show you some of our top performers for the 2022 season. The purpose of our trials here in East Lansing, Michigan are to grow and evaluate new species and cultivars under our mid-Michigan growing conditions. Some of the unique aspects of our trial garden compared to other trial gardens in the country is we are open to the general public. It's not a closed trial that's only open to industry members. The trial is displayed in a landscaped garden setting rather than a row trial or a black plastic trial. It's maintained like a home garden, so we do all of our weeding, watering, fertilizing by hand to more closely simulate the growing conditions of a home grower. And finally, we're not a commercial operation, so our trial results are hopefully as unbiased as possible. We're not marketing any of these plants, so we have no financial stakes in how any of them perform. Our plant trials are evaluated every 2 weeks throughout the growing season on a 1 to 5 grading scale, and they're evaluated according to 4 different criteria: their overall vigor, the uniformity of the plant habits, color and pattern, their overall wow factor, and finally their resistance to environmental stresses. So let's move on and look at some of our top performers from this season, starting with the annuals. First, we're going to look at Vinca Soiree Flamenco Salmon Glow from Suntory. This variety could be grown in a container or in the ground, and it features unusual vinca flowers. They have ruffly edges, which give them a very different look from a traditional vinca. Next, we have Scaevola Surdiva White Improved from Suntory. This was probably our best looking Scaevola all season. It constantly had almost complete flower coverage. You could barely see the foliage, and never had a moment throughout the summer where it didn't look perfect. Here we have Petunia Sure Shot White from Ball Horticulture, and I don't know if I just had something for white flowers this season, but this was another one that really impressed me. As you can see, just a big ball of white flowers, can barely see the foliage, and it held on really long into the season. Usually our container petunias kind of get a little tired by the end of the season, and this one continued to look really good late into the season. And right next to it is Petunia Sure Shot Blue Vein, also from Ball Horticulture. This one I really liked because it had a mixture of those bluish purple tones with the darker center. The blue color was also really vibrant against the dark green foliage that held that nice healthy dark green color all season. Next is a trio of Pentas varieties. These are Star Cluster, Cascade Blush, Cascade Red, and Cascade White, all from Syngenta. These never had a dull moment all summer. They were almost always in bloom and working on their next set of flower buds at the same time. They were also completely covered in pollinators all season, which was pretty fun to see. Our next containers are the Begonia Big series from Benari. They sent us about 6 or 7 different colors in this series. This has been a long time favorite of mine. We've had this in the trials for several years now, and they always knock my socks off. The plants get huge. In the container they stayed a little bit smaller, but in the ground they can form a 3-foot tall hedge. And there's just so many flowers all season long. A really great landscape plant that is drought tolerant and heat tolerant. Next we have a trio of container coleus. We've got Trailblazer Road Trip on the left-hand side, Trailblazer Glory Road in the middle, and Microblaze Matchsticks on the right-hand side. These are all from Ball Horticulture. Road Trip is a supersized variety with this really pretty hot pink at the center of each leaf. And while it's gotten really big, it has stayed fairly tidy. Glory Road was another one that got very large by the end of the season. and had really great texture with the small burgundy and gold leaves. And finally, we have microblaze matchsticks, and I kind of thought of this as a miniature version of Glory Road. It was nice and tidy and had a very tight ball-shaped habit. This is Penstemon Flock of Flamingos, and it's right on the border of our hardiness zone. I think it's zone 6, so it may overwinter here, but we're really just treating it as an annual. This variety just had wave after wave of bubblegum pink flowers, and it was always completely smothered in pollinators all season long. Here's a new one from Proven Winners. This is Cyperus Graceful Grasses Queen Tut. So this adds to their collection of Baby Tut, Prince Tut, and King Tut. And I would actually say that it's about the same height as Baby Tut, but has a completely different texture with these firework-shaped inflorescences. Now we have a pair of neighbors in the garden. These are both from Proven Winners. On the left is Gomphrena truffula pink, and on the right is Heliotrope Augusta lavender. Both of these just had an amazing amount of pollinators visiting them throughout the summer. The Gomphrena has really interesting open inflorescences rather than the typical thimble-shaped Gomphrena flowers. We also noticed if you smell them, they smell just like chicken noodle soup, which is kind of interesting. I bet your kids would love it. And this heliotrope I really appreciate just because it's something new. It's a color you don't see in annuals very often with that really light lavender. And it just had flush after flush of flowers and again, tons of pollinators. The last couple years, there have been a lot of yellow and orange calibrachoas and petunias coming out on the market, including these three that caught my eye this season. We have Calibrachoa Supercal Premium Yellow Sun from Cicada, as well as Petunia Funhouse Papaya and Funhouse Peach Melba from Syngenta. Now we're going to move on to our perennial trials, starting with two Pulmonaria varieties from Terra Nova. We have Raspberry Frost and Silver Scimitar. And while these haven't bloomed for us yet, the foliage alone is super impressive and would look great in a shady spot in the garden. Next up is Dicentra Amore Titanium. And this Dicentra variety just would not stop flowering all summer. It was really surprising. Bleeding hearts are typically an ephemeral species in the Michigan garden. They go dormant once the summer heat arrives, and these held on all summer, pumping out flush after flush of flowers, and the foliage was really pretty too, a nice blue-green color, and the foliage persisted all season. Next, we have three sedum cultivars. We have Back in Black from Walter's Gardens, Coral Jade, also from Walter's Gardens, and Conga Line from Terra Nova. All three of these have really healthy looking foliage. Conga Line and Back in Black also have very colorful, striking foliage. And they all started to produce their flower inflorescences pretty early in the season, and they persisted a long time. They're actually still flowering well into the fall. And with that, I hope you enjoyed your quick tour of the MSU Horticulture Gardens and our trialing program, and we hope to see you again next year.